Welcome to Learn Commerce PU online classes. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.
Hello students, welcome to 2nd PUC English online classes. In the last class, we discussed to the foot from its child. Here, the foot refers to the life of the individual. The foot of the child is the infant child that we studied in the last class. The infant foot that refers to the child, infant, okay, and as the foot grows, as the child grows, it becomes hard, physically and emotionally it becomes hard. And then we had seen while the child is growing, what are the difficulties it is facing and what are the problems it has to face and it has to solve. There are stones, there are bits of glass, streets, ladders, so ups and downs, there are obstacles, there are hardships in the life, and crossing all these things, the child is growing. And the child, when it was an infant, when it was an innocent, at that time its dream was to become or to fly like a butterfly, and also it desired to become an apple. But as it grows, it realizes, the society makes the child to realize that it cannot bulge like an apple or it cannot fly. So here the realities of life that teaches or that realizes the child, it cannot bulge like an apple and it cannot fly like a butterfly. So here the poet Pablo Neeruda, she is telling us or telling every reader that how the child that grows, how the child it faces the difficulties and how the child is burdened with the responsibilities, burdened with the duties and burdened with the conventions of the society. So when the child is bound with all these things, it cannot complete or it cannot make it dream makes it dream a successful one. That is what Pablo Neeruda tells us in the poem, and we had seen how the child's foot that becomes an adult foot, and later how the shape of the child's foot is changed when it was infant, or when the foot was the child's foot. At that time it was very smooth or petaled like a foot, and when it grows, what happens? It becomes an eyeless reptile, it becomes shapeless, it becomes hard. That we had studied in the last class. Dear students, let us see what Pablo Neeruda tells us about the routine of individual's life in the next stanza. Before that, let me read the poem from the beginning. The child's foot is not yet aware it's a foot and would like to be a butterfly or an apple. But in time, stones and bits of glass, streets, ladders and the paths in the rough earth go on teaching the foot that it cannot fly, cannot be a fruit bulging on the branch. Then the child's foot is defeated, falls in the battle, is a prisoner condemned to live in a shoe. Bit by bit, in the dark, it grows to know the world in its own way, out of touch with its fellow, enclosed, feeling out like a blind man. These soft nails of quartz bunched together grow hard and change themselves into opaque substance, hard as horn, and the tiny petaled toes of the child grow bunched and out of trim, take on the form of eyeless reptiles with triangular heads like worms. Later, they grow collapsed and are covered with the faint volcanoes of death, a cursing hard to accept. But this blind thing walks without respite, never stopping for hour after hour. The one foot, the other, now the man's, now the woman's, up above, down below, through the fields, mines, markets and ministries, backwards, far afield, inward, forward. This foot toils in its shoe, scarcely taking time to bear itself in love or sleep. It walks, they walk, until the whole man chooses to stop, and then it descended underground, unaware, for there everything was dark. It never knew it had ceased to be a foot, or if they were burying it so that it could fly, or so that it could become an apple. Dear students, so in this second part, what Pablo Neeruda she tells about the child's foot. The child foot that becomes an adult foot. It grows physically and emotionally. The child foot that grows and it becomes an adult foot, a responsible foot. And there it has to perform the duties. It has to bound to some of the responsibilities, and also it has to bear the responsibilities of the society. It has to adjust according to the society, according to the convention it has to live. So here the adult foot is trapped in everyday routine activities. As it grows, you know how the child is completely dependent on its parents. As it grows, it becomes an independent. Then as it becomes an adult, it has to perform some duties, responsibilities, etc. So here Pablo Neruda she tells us that without any chance of escaping from these responsibilities or from this routine, the child it grows, and how the child's identity is changed in its life. See, but this blind thing walks without respite, never stopping, without stop or without escaping from any duties or responsibilities. The child grows, and as it grows, it takes the different identities, the one foot, the other, now the man's, now the woman's. It takes the identity, different identities, and up above, down below, through fields, mines, markets and ministries. It walks in a different fields. It performs its duties, or it performs its work or job in different fields. So here the child walks, or when it grows, when it becomes an adult, it performs its performances in different fields such as fields, mines, markets, ministries, everywhere, and being in the shoe or being blind. Why it is referred as being blind? Because the society made with its conventions, with its rules and regulations, made the child blind, and the society, it doesn't allow the child to grow like an apple or to fly like a butterfly. And then here, far afield, inward, forward, this foot toils in its shoe, scarcely taking time to bear itself in love or sleep. Having performing all these duties, having busy in all the 24 hours of the day, the child is or the foot, here not the child's foot but the adult's foot, it is not getting the time to spend in its life, which gives a little pleasure. For example, it cannot get the time to spend in its love or in sleep. It cannot get the time to spend with its family, or to enjoy, or to take rest, or to take the leisure. So here the poet, she is saying that the child is lost in all its busy schedule. In that busy schedule, the foot that had forgotten to enjoy the life or to experience the pleasures in the life. So, the child did not get to experience those silly little pleasures that make people alive, that are essential to the human soul. So, all these pleasures, always work, always duties, always earning, these are all the things they cannot give a pleasure or a satisfaction to the soul. When you spend your time with your family, with some of the works which give an entertainment, or some of the activities that give you a kind of little pleasure, if you are not indulged in that, your life becomes a waste or useless thing. Because when you don't enjoy all these things, when will you get the time? When you don't enjoy your youth, when you don't enjoy the laugh, when you don't enjoy the sleep, what's the meaning what's the meaning or what is the use of the life? That's what the poet is saying. And then, until the whole man chooses to stop, and then it descended underground unaware. Being busy in all these, all its works or schedule, finally the foot reaches to the death or to the stage of death. It dies. Until there, the foot that had forgotten its dream. What's the dream of the child? What's the dream of the child's foot? To become or to bulge like an apple or to fly like a butterfly. So, in all these busy schedule, the foot had forgotten that dream, and finally the foot died, and when it is dying, it is also unaware about its death, and it is unaware that it cannot complete its dream. Still the foot is dreaming. The foot is dreaming. After the death, there is a hope of rebirth in the foot, and the foot, it dreams that after the rebirth, again it can bulge like an apple or fly like a butterfly. And then it descended underground unaware, for there everything was dark. How? When the child, when it was alive, it was imprisoned, it was blindfolded in the shoe. Here shoe in the sense, it is a metaphor for the society. So, with the rules and regulation, with the convention of the society, the foot was blindfolded, it was bound with all those responsibilities. So, it was blind, and after the death again it was sent to the darkness in the burial. So, it never knew it has ceased to be a foot, or if they were burying it so that it could fly, or so that it could become an apple. Again it had the foot that had a belief that in the next life or in the next birth, in its after the rebirth of the foot, again it can bulge like an apple, or again it can fly like a butterfly. Still the dream did not die, only the foot that was died, and the dream was still alive. In the sense, there is a hope of a rebirth. So, here dear students, Pablo Neeruda, she is explaining the growth of the child from childhood to adulthood to old age, and next to death. So, the child, it is an innocent, the child's foot is an innocent foot. So, the foot is a metaphor for the life. So, how the foot becomes hard, and it becomes shapeless, and finally it dies. The same way here the life, when the life of the individual, when it was an infant or the child, it was innocent, and as it grows it learns everything, good and bad, both emotionally and physically it grows. So, this is what Pablo Neeruda, she is beautifully explaining the journey of life from childhood to its death. Thank you.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.